Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Just to remind you, because it's only 2 months away and things happen very quickly, but when we have our December meeting, we'll extend the time a little bit, and we'll do a sharing of food and beverages again. So you guys get to have a little more of that social opportunity that you seem to really want so much. Keep that in mind for December, okay? December, I know, but we only have one more meeting before that. I might as well start telling you now, so you can prepare. And you can, yeah, time goes a little fast.
Another year.
November 1st. It's in Smithtown. And then when you register, you get together. Okay. Or you can show it how to get there. Try to find those. Okay.
I have a Christmas. I have something. So you seem very. He's going to have to do another.
Okay. The other thing is, come next year with this particular group, I'm going to change things up a little bit. And I'm going to have a little bit more of a structure so you know what to expect when we get here. And one of the first things that we'll do is we're going to talk about the news, because I love the news. We're really just going to talk about what's going on in the real world, and I'll give you an interpretation of it through a different lens. Because part of being able to become more intuitive and more happy is to interpret the things that are actually happening around you or in your life, okay? Then we'll go to our primary topic of the day, whatever that might be. And then what I'm going to be doing come the new year is the last half hour of every session, I will either take questions and answers, or if I'm not getting any, I will read people. So if you don't want to be read, you would just let me know. But I also find that in a group, there seems to be a lot of power if I'm really looking at people and their real lives specifically. Because I want to help you guys to learn this and implement it as quickly as you can, because it feels so good. So by adding those two components, it's not just knowledge in your head, it's some more of like the practical applications of how this knowledge works in your life or how it works in the world in general. All right? So even like something that I wrote was kind of funny like that. But Ebola and what's going on with ISIS. Is that how you say it? ISIS. I don't even want to bother to learn how to pronounce these things. But what is going on with them, it does give us a great opportunity for conversation. And since my essay, I'm not asking you for right or wrong, but did anyone actually read the essay top down? There was a paragraph in there that is so dense that you may have to read it 6 or 7 or 8 times before you finally get it. It's written in a relatively simple essay, but there's one paragraph that is so dense that I was a little surprised that the guys would put it in there with that much information in just a few sentences. Now, that paragraph, it's almost like a map for life, how life really, really, really works. So don't just think of it as something that you're going to read once and get and understand things better. If you were to take that paragraph out and reread it, especially anytime you feel uncomfortable about something going on in the world or something going on in your life, it helps you to step out of being human and to remember how all of this began to begin with. So what I would like to do now is, because that paragraph was so dense, I know I've danced around it in this group about the explanation of that paragraph, but I want to go into it a little bit more so you can understand it more clearly, because the concept can help you really understand how to interpret something like Ebola or the terrorism or whatever else is going on in the world around us. But I'm hoping in my lifetime that Washington will understand what I'm about to say. If Washington or any politician or anyone that's making decisions or legislating or governing in any way starts to know this stuff, everything in the universe will change. Everything will change like that. I think that there are some people out there in leadership roles that can intuit it a little bit, so they're on the right track. But if you actually know it, it'll change the way you perceive everything. In the energy realm, we use our conscious thoughts to project our reality. Okay? We know we use our thought energy to create whatever we experience. We know it. There's never a moment of hesitation. There's never a moment of pause that we forget that we are projecting our thoughts into the manifestation of anything that we experience. In addition to understanding the projection, we also understand that we co-create the manifestation of everything that we experience with all thought energy. So we understand that everything that exists in our experience when we're in the state of being in the energy realm without physical manifestation is created and co-created. So we know that we're a part of it, and we also know that all other consciousness in existence is also a part of it. We also understand that the power of our focus will increase the power of our projection in what it is we are personally experiencing. Okay? So just to kind of like, you have to use analogies in human form because most of us don't remember not being on Earth. Even though I can remember it, it doesn't mean that you can remember it easily through me. But when we're in physical form, an analogy of how we do this in the energy realm would be, if I'm working in this building and I'm a co-worker of Michelle's, and every day I'm in this bit, in the energy realm I would know that this space is co-created by me. Now if I step out of this space and I'm out of the boardroom, I'm out of the offices, I'm not talking to my coworkers, I'm out of the lunchroom, and I go into my office and I shut the door, then I recognize that what's going on in that space has a larger energetic reflection of my thought energy. So what I'm projecting in my experience now has more to do with my thoughts than the collective. Now, if I get up from my office and I go out and I use the hallway bathroom, which has just been redesigned and upgraded, I'll understand that the upgrade of that bathroom, I had a minuscule opportunity to co-create the new design in that bathroom that everyone in the building uses. I know it's not a reflection of everything that I've been thinking about or could imagine, but I understand that when I go in there, every time I would wash my hands, I would be like, oh, look at this faucet was built in 1970, or I'd be thinking things where the energy then becomes a part of reality, and ultimately when the designers came in and they reconfigured the space, they're going to be taking the consciousness of all of the thoughts that surrounded the redesign. So I know I'm a part of it. I don't care how much of a part of it I am, because I don't have an egoic need to prove anything to anybody. I get the flow of creation and co-creation, and it's beautiful and it's magnificent. And if there's something that I realize I could like it more, I never don't like anything. Everything is always wonderful and beautiful and fantastic and vivid and vibrant and exciting. So it's not that I'll dislike something, but if I want to change it for adding some other part of what I imagine or something else I would like to experience or try or play, then I'll add a new projection into it. And if my projection alone can't change the image of what I'm experiencing, I'll get some other souls on board with me and share my idea. And if they get excited and passionate about it too, they'll project with me to let the manifestation of that thought energy come into our space, into our reality. So all of this is natural. We don't fight it. We don't disagree with it. We don't manipulate it in a way that we think that there's a right or a wrong. We do manipulate it in a way that we understand how we can shift our thought energy in the creation of what it is that we are experiencing. But it's mainly like a big game for us, exciting. Like we just never know how far we can go. And to me, when I'm in the energy realm, it feels like one big, well, this is great, but what if, but what if, but what if, but what if? And that's the way it feels in the energy realm. It always feels like there's more that's possible while we're completely enjoying what is already there. We're not disappointed. We're not bored. We're not frustrated. We don't have any feelings of hate. We like what's here. We love what's here. It's cool. But what if? And then we create a new thought. And we open up a new possibility. And we imagine something that we have not yet imagined. And we try out that projection. So we'll put that thought energy into our experience to see what happens, and then we try it on. We're like, all right, here we go. And then we try it on, and we see if we like it more. We see what happened. We see how the manifestation of that thought energy changes our reality. And we might re-perceive what actually happens in comparison to what we thought might happen. Right? It's just like this fun experiment. And there are no limits. It just goes on and on and on. And sometimes you lay back and you're in a circumstance with some other souls and they're projecting changes and you're experiencing the projection of their changes. And it feels so cool too because you get so excited by seeing the manifestation of their creative abilities. When you see another soul's imagination at play and dancing around you, it makes you so happy. It doesn't have to have been your projection. So your projection or another's projection or 100,000 projections or all in all of existence projections, they all are exciting. They're all interesting. But we understand our role in the projections. That's the biggest difference between being in the energy realm and being on Earth. On Earth, we are taught that everything on Earth is caused by a physical something that starts it, by some physical catalyst. And then everything that happens is a consequence. It's a result. But nothing happens on Earth first. Everything that happens on Earth is a byproduct of our disconnect from our souls. Our disconnect from the vibration of love causes things to begin on Earth. And that's the consequence. Anything that you see on Earth that feels negative is because enough people on Earth have used their conscious thoughts to project something negative. So the projection you're seeing outside of you, around you, is the absence of the vibration of love. Whenever you see something that makes you feel fantastic, every time you experience something wonderful, you're experiencing the soulful energy of tapping into that vibration of love again. So what happens is, when we're in the energy realm, this love just keeps expanding and expanding and expanding. And with expansion, you have to move into new horizons. When there's expansion, you outgrow something and you make things bigger. So as you're expanding, you want to see the consequence of this growing love. It's very exciting to see love grow and that energy and that vibration keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So at some point, the way that we projected so that we could see the consequence of our thought energy in a way that we can't see it in the energy realm is to create and co-create physical manifestation. This Earth, this world, this space, these planets, these stars, this however far you think galaxies go, these black holes, these, whatever, oil underneath layers of bedrock, all of this stuff is a projection of all conscious energy through all of time. And rather than just experiencing it, projecting and experiencing and projecting and experiencing it, by creating it in physical form, which we believe, we totally buy into the fact that this is a water bottle. You guys are all hoping that the top is on as well, because you're hoping that I don't squeeze it and have the lid come out and like give me what is it, water challenge, ice bucket challenge? But we get that if we create it and then it becomes static, if it's unmoving and we get to see things in correlation to the thing that we first built, then we get to see evidence of our projection of thought energy. And it happens over a long period of time, and it happens instantaneously. It happens both ways. So, for example, if you go into the city and you look at a 40-story building, I don't care who the architect was. You can imagine the millions of thought energies that went into the creation of that building. The architect simply took the consciousness of millions of thought energies and millions of imaginations and put it all together in this building. But up until then, the thought energy of all of the what-ifs, of all of the people that have lived before or are still living, came together. What if we build a 2-story building instead of a 1? What if we build a solid shelter so that when it snows we don't get cold? What if we warm the shelter in the winter? What if in the summer we make the space cool? What if we put windows in so the bugs don't come in? What if we forge iron and ore? What if we make steel? Well, if we have steel, now we can go up 4 stories. What if we can go up 4 stories? What if we can go up 4 or 8? What if we can go up 12? Well, what about if we don't have to walk outside for water? What if we bring the bathroom inside? What if we have a toilet right inside? What if instead of lighting candles every day, what if we have some kind of power source that lets us just operate a switch so we can have lights on inside the building? What if we put a rug on the floor? What if we put marble on the floor? What if we cut a rock open and then polished it up and then shipped it across the world and had marble on the floors? What if we cut a tree down and made a piece of furniture? What if, and you can see, you think one person created that building and then a lot of people were hired to build it? It's not the way it went. It's not the way it went. It's the evolution of the projection of conscious energy that has been collected into one space. One person has collected the energy and had it come to fruition because of enough people that believed in what was possible, and then they did it. And every one of those steps happens little by little. The first person that thought that they could build a high-rise, they didn't build a high-rise first. The first person that thought they could build a high-rise experimented with a building a little bit lower than a high-rise. And then they said, well, if we can do that, can we do this? So we are doing the exact same thing here. That architect, his conscious energy, and the building I'm thinking of was male, so I don't think I'm being prejudiced here. So his imprint on the design and the creation of that building had a large projection of his conscious energy in the way that he took all these disparate conscious energies and thoughts and brought them in together for one building. And then a lot of other people, someone who's been dead for 1,000 years, some people have been dead for 50, someone's about to be hired to be a contractor, someone else overseas is going to be hired to make a lot of the pieces that are going to go into the building. So all of these conscious energies are being brought together for the building of this. The architect alone did not build that building, did not have that building built, any more than anything in your earth life is completely constructed through your conscious energy alone. The chair that you're sitting on, whatever went into that chair, molded plastic, fibers, cushioning, the shape of it, the design of it, there's a lot of thought energy that went into just the chair that you are sitting in. when we talk about design to us is when someone when someone reconceives an old way of looking at something. Design is about a new slant. But there's no design, really, that hasn't been built upon many, many, many previous designs and concepts. It's just reconfiguring it, showing it in a different way, portraying it in a different angle. But the imagination, the conscious energy that the person has that creates, they are the projector of putting all of that stuff together in that form, in that moment. And that's how we create our reality. Now, when we disconnect, as we have since the beginning of at least modern human history, when we disconnect from our soul, when we disconnect from our knowingness that we are all one and that we are all connected, disconnecting is what causes us to shift our projections individually and collectively into the realm of negative experiences. And so anything that happens that's negative, a disease, a war, violence, poverty, foreclosures, whatever it is co-created through the projection of energy that has been separated from the vibration of love. So the only way to really fix the whole world is to have everyone start to vibrate at the vibration of love again, to have everyone love themselves again, and for us to show unconditional love for each other. And when that happens, if it were to happen tomorrow for a couple of minutes, the whole evolution of humanity would change. If it were to happen for an hour, the whole evolution of humanity would change in that you would step into a new day that would be so different than the day that you stepped out of. So let's talk about something specific like Ebola or terrorists. I don't mean this as a political conversation at all. Call me apolitical, okay? I am apolitical. If we attack the world when we don't like something that they do, are they going to dislike us? And when the attack is over, will they continue to dislike us?
Sure.
So when you have a government that is aggressive, even if it's under the guise of protection and security, the effect is putting a lot of energy into the world that does not dissolve when the attack is over. The energy still exists. And it forms clusters of hatred. And the bigger the amount of energy that goes into the attack, the bigger the cluster of hatred that forms. So who is responsible for ISIS? Indirectly, the United States of America. Indirectly, because we're the ones that want to be perceived as the world peacekeeper. We're the ones that want to be perceived as the ones that are keeping democracy in all of the world. We're the ones that want to be perceived as the defenders of human rights. So therefore, since we are inviting in that perception and we are taking the greatest actions to defend those liberties, then our energy collectively is the greatest creator of terrorism. It's an interesting way to look at things, because the energy doesn't melt when we leave. I saw a thing on Facebook this morning, and it said, you guys have probably seen it, it was one of those little cartoons that said, our parents used to beat us, and they used to blah, blah, blah. Now parents aren't allowed to touch the kids, and that's why everybody sucks. I'm sorry if it was your post. You are not. posted by me today, then just see if anyone posted that on your wall. If it came through my feed. That's what our government does. You know? It thinks it's going to beat submission and peace and our way of thinking into them. I want you to think about every person that ever hit you in your entire life. You can name it before we leave this building because you will remember it forever. And if you were hit more than once by the same person, it is still imprinted in your cells. And you've probably been spending a lot of your life getting rid of the energy that it created in your cells. So now what if I go with a bomb and I kill you and your children and your sisters and your wives? Is that going to be something that's going to fade? Is that going to melt away in 5 years, that energy of pain? And now we're giving them an enemy that they can sink their teeth into. It's not airy-fairy. It's not something that's elusive. It's not a virus like Ebola. It's not a bad weather storm. It's not a tsunami. It's something that they can attack in return. And if they don't have the physical means to attack the enemy that has caused them this pain, they're going to attack in a way that they can relieve themselves of this energy that is building up. And you can see by their acts how much energy has built up. If you hit a kid, your kid is either going to never defend him or herself again when he gets older and going to become a doormat, or he's going to go around and hit everybody, whether it's with his hands or his words or his actions. Those are the two paths he's going to take. If we understand this, why don't we understand it with our neighbors and our countries? Energy exists. Energy exists. That's why when you go to a different place, you can feel the energy of the space that you're at. And energy is different in every space that you go. And you could even be in a building like this, where Michelle works. I could go into one person's office and feel something. I can go into another person's office and feel something entirely different. Even if I'm not looking at what knickknacks and photographs they have around, it just feels different. Because energy stays. Energy exists forever. You cannot kill energy. And energy is what creates our reality. So everything we put into this universe energetically stays. And the only way that you can convert energy from one form to another is to concentrate on converting it. So can we convert the energy that's out there? Yes. The only way to convert the energy that's out there right now is through the energy of love. Are we going to go over, are we going to rent a plane and all of us get on a plane and go over and land in the heart of Isis and start hugging everybody? Wouldn't it be awesome if we could? Huh? Well, we're not. But what we can do is to give love to the places that are there and available for us to give love to. And where's the most important place of all? Yourself. Yourself. That's the most important place of all. That's where it starts. Because when you have real love for yourself, the overflow of that joy that you feel, it just reaches other people. You just have so much of it, it can't help but gurgle out. You can't help but, feel nice toward people, and you can't help but like people. It just spills out. So if everyone were to take some of that energy where we would like to maybe go over there and hug people that we can't hug, but if we keep putting it where we can put it, then at least we're starting to convert the energy. And that's our role. So let's talk about something that seems a little bit more random, Ebola. One of the easiest ways to talk about a virus or a disease or something like that, I find that the analogy of if we talk about sex, it's the easiest way to talk about any kind of a body disharmony. So let's talk about sex. Okay, is everyone comfortable with that? I feel like my ninth grade biology teacher. My ninth grade biology teacher, the first time he had to say penis, he looked up in the corner and said penis, and then all of us giggled, you know. And then later on he had to say another word, started with a V. I'm not ready for that one yet in public. He stared up in that corner while we all giggled. And then he came back down and talked about other stuff. But I think we're all ready. We can talk about sex, right? All right. Sex is actually pretty natural. It's something that we have these physical urges, and it seems natural to get involved in it, to do it, and to enjoy it. Okay? And if we were left to our own devices and everybody stayed out of our business, that's exactly what it would be. We would have sex with whom we want to when we want to. I don't care if you're male, I don't care if you're female, I don't care if you're tall or little or old or young or whatever. But it would be completely natural and consensual and pleasurable. But humans decided to take ownership of something because it had so much power. Sexual energy has so much power that humans were afraid of it when they were trying to govern. So they decided that they had to take ownership of your sexual energy. That's how things like the burqas came to be. That's how some of the examples of how you're supposed to procreate in other religions and not have any contact otherwise. That's how all of these things developed, was so that people in power, and it was men historically, but that's how men in power took control over an energy that was very powerful. Now, what they did, in addition to legislating what you could or could not do physically, was they also assigned rightness and wrongness to it that was indicated to them by God. Okay? Because if God says something, then you cannot refute it. Because if you refute it, you will be struck by lightning. And if you step outside of what God said, you will also be struck by lightning. Okay? So now, if I tell you, as your governing king, or whatever the heck I am, that you are not allowed to have sex with anyone other than a member of the opposite sex with whom you are married, and you will be struck by lightning if you do anything other than that. How harmonious is your body going to feel sexually if you're not in a marital relation with someone of the opposite sex? It doesn't turn off the feelings, it doesn't turn off the urges, it doesn't turn off sexual maturity. It just turns off the way your body is going to respond to it and how your mind is going to suggest to your body the rightness or the wrongness of the expression or the experience. When you understand that, then you understand that some of the things that emerged because of this ownership of your sexuality was STDs. If I tell you that you are wrong to have sex with someone outside of marriage, with a member of the opposite sex, and then you do, you're going to be looking over your shoulder constantly for what the consequence is. You're going to live in fear. You're going to have a knot in your stomach. You're going to be afraid of being stoned to death if you get caught. Whatever your fear is, because of how grand this rule is that God has given you, you're going to change the physiology of your body. And if you are a soul in a human body and you're wanting to break free of man-made rules, you might create a way to get caught so that you can try to lessen beliefs that are not soulful and have people find that love is more important than rules. So suppose you got a sexually contracted disease and you are a married person. Obviously that can't happen unless one of you is stepping out, right? So now you're opening the possibility of a conversation. If people really love you without condition, they're going to say, hey, it's all right, we'll figure this thing out, you know? But if they have to live in fear and in being controlled, and they're afraid of their own destinies and their own power, then the consequence is going to be that you will be punished now that you're out in the open. Therefore, by being out in the open and being punished openly, you're getting the consequence of what you were feeling, which was unworthiness because you stepped out of the marriage to begin with.
Can you repeat that?
That's it. That's it. You want to turn to science? You want to tell me the evolution of an STD? Go ahead. Nothing happens on Earth first. You can show what happened. You can show its evolution. You can show me how it changed. But it didn't start in a petri dish. It started by being disconnected from our own power. It started by handing off our belief systems to someone else. It started by putting people in control of all of the aspects of our lives when they are not connected to the vibration of love. That's how it began. That's how it began. And just about everything you can think of right this second that doesn't feel harmonious in your life is the consequence of something that someone told you is right or wrong. Period. Period. You're carrying it to some degree. If you were raised Catholic and you went to Catholic school, you're probably carrying a lot more of it than someone else. But you're still carrying some of it. Sit up straight, Derek, would you? You're still carrying it. You're still carrying it. And the interesting thing about the way that we carry it is that the stuff that happens to us that's big, we're aware of it. You know, if you were hit as a kid, if you were beaten as a kid on a regular basis, you're aware of it. So you know what you are up against. You know how to seek information of value to reharmonize you. You know how to make choices that are different with the people in your family and with your children. You know it. It's all there. But if you're unaware of what it was that repressed you or bound you or made you believe that you were not enough or that you were wrong and wrong and wrong and wrong again, it's insidious. It gets into you in ways that you don't necessarily even know that it's there. And so you become, as an example, metaphorically, like our politicians in Congress and the Senate right now. So needing to defend an identity, even if you did not select that identity. The need to be right is more vigorous than any stimulant in your life because you don't love yourself enough to understand that there is no right or wrong. There's only love. There is no right or wrong. There's only love. That's all there is. There's only love. I know I've told you the story already, like how many states I've had to cross off my list because they have like a, state constitutional amendment that says that you're not allowed to have opposite-sex marriages in their state. So one by one, we're crossing them off. My family's like, oh, geez, we're crossing another state off. Mom, we can't live here. And so yesterday's decision, or lack of decision, whatever you want to call it, I was elated. But, it's so funny. There is one place where I still find myself a little judgmental. And I don't know if judgment is the right word, but when I think about some person legislating whom you can marry, I can't understand what goes on in the brain that makes you think you have the right to do that. Why is it any of your effing business? Is that judgmental? I don't know. I honestly can't wrap my head around why someone thinks that's their business. Right? It's baffling. But in all fairness, let's soften it up a little. I really do understand why they think it's their business. Because whatever beat them up when they were kids, they came through and survived by thinking that they are good people. And their good peopleness has a script. And that script has a lot of rules on it. So in order to survive, they have to make you believe their script, otherwise they are not worthy. If you don't do what's on their list of what makes them good, then are they good? No. So they have to defend to the death the list that was given to them. They're not going to think about the stuff on that list independently. They're going to defend it to the end because it's the whole of who they think they are, because they didn't explore who they really are or what they really care about or what matters. They just created this path that got them through childhood. And maybe it helped them survive. Maybe it helped their family stay connected to them in some level because they had the same belief system. Maybe it helped them navigate their community or their school. Maybe it helped them to assimilate so they could have what other people are telling them is a good or a worthy life. But there'll come a day in everybody's soul history that if they are defending something that is not true, they will face the day when that defense or that idea will be challenged and it will be given the opportunity to melt away. That's the way the universe works. That's how we co-create our discoveries and our opportunities for discovery. That's how it happens. These things are going to knock on your door over and over and over again. So if you go to Albany and you make a law that says same-sex cannot marry in this state, I guarantee when you go home, your son is coming out of the closet. Guarantee it. Guarantee it. Because that's the gift that the universe is going to co-create for you. So it's knocking on your door, let it in, go back to Albany, do the loving thing, and then go home and embrace your kid. That's how it works. So what's going on right now in Washington is that the state of stagnancy and hatred and how diabolically separate they are, there's only one place to go from there, because we are not raising people to be sensible enough to figure out a solution, and people don't have the spiritual maturity to find a solution in the middle. So something is going to have to explode. And we will all be protected from the explosion because we're choosing to live awake. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. We are. And so when I co-wrote the top-down living, when you go back and you read that dense paragraph again, you'll understand it better. So we project. When we project something that's not coming from a loving vibration, it will have a negative consequence. Our same physiology, we are physical, our same brain that projects our thought energy into the human experience also acts as the interpreter. So what echoes back to us from our projection, we will decipher. So we'll figure out the consequence of the projection. And that's how we learn, and that's how we grow. And if the interpretation of the projection is not agreeable to us, that's when we alter the projection. That's the way we're designed to live in human form. Every disease that exists can melt away if everybody loved themselves. Every disease, every war, every separation, every isolation will disappear and melt if we each love ourselves fully. So if we were to build an army of love, could we take over the world the way that Hitler tried to, but all from a positive perspective? Yes, because every single person that leaves here and recruits a new member, anyone that you get to see the world through a more loving lens, even if it's for a second, you just recruited a new member. You have pushed that ripple of love out into the universe. Even if it's just for a moment, it's in existence now. So you guys are the ambassadors of love. That's what you are. And in everything that you do, you can continue to use that energy to affect things like Ebola and terrorism. You put it where you can put it. Energy does not have place. Energy is energy. Energy exists. Energy touches everything. When the moon is rising and the moon is setting and the waters are rising and the waters are lowering, do you think that the Indian Ocean says, you know what, I don't really feel like paying attention to your energy today. I'm a little tired. I'm a little sluggish. So I'm just gonna chill. Energy doesn't have space, and we can't opt out of energy. We're all in it. So take the energy that you know that you have, continue to work on growing your love of self, and then help others to see anything that you can possibly help them to see from a more loving perspective, and that's your role. The one last thing that I'll mention, because I think we're out of time, is that when we become aware of how we can live and how we can be, we do tend to get even harder on ourselves than we were before we were aware. So if you want to really find a place to work on loving yourself more, please don't set your own bar so high that you think you have to be some form of perfection, because that's not loving yourself. So don't now turn your knowledge of an enlightened perspective against yourself. Appreciate who you are in this moment. Appreciate exactly where you are in this moment. And say, maybe you want to change something up, but it's not because you should or have to or must or need to. It's because you want to. That's all. You want to. I didn't know what I was talking about tonight. Your guys chose it. Thanks for being here, everybody. Go out there and love everybody.